For the final film for the Cannon Group, Hooper was given an impossible task: to create a sequel to his 1974 classic, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Interest in the project came from New Line's 1981 theatrical re-release of the film, and he was still a partial owner of the property. Initially he signed on only as a producer, but given Cannon's financial difficulties, they were unable to afford any of his chosen directors, so he stepped in. Cannon was expecting a traditional horror sequel like Halloween 2 or Friday the 13th Part 2. The same general plot outline and themes, but a higher body count. However, Hooper wanted to emphasize the black comedy elements that he felt were neglected in the original, and knew that attempting to emulate the original's grittiness was a recipe for disaster. To that end, he asked Ellen Crit Carson to write the screenplay, hot off the heels of the success of Paris, Texas. The result is a film that is over the top in almost every way, from set design to gore to the cannibal family. It is the image that people have in their head when they hear the title Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It is loud and can be overwhelming at times. But despite the emphasis on comedy and camp, there are some thematic elements that shine strongly through and are still relevant today. It is by far the best sequel in the now 9-film franchise, and the only one that stands on its own, acknowledging what came before while creating something unique. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is ultimately about the female experience through the lens of a man. The protagonist, Venita Brock, though mostly known as Stretch, deals with a series of male characters who all react to her in different ways, but all rooted in patriarchal notions. Despite the antagonistic characters on all sides, she still directs the action, making choices that dictate the events of the film, rather than just being thrust into the situation like most other final girls in the genre. It offers a view of the different kinds of behaviors a woman might encounter in everyday life, but exaggerated due to the larger-than-life world the film presents. It begins with a couple of frat boys driving through the countryside. They're intoxicated and loud and abrasive. They call in a Stretch's radio station, catcalling her via proxy. While they don't say anything directly about her appearance, they show immense disrespect for her and her position. They also taunt her about the inability for her to end the call, a quirk of old phone lines, wherein even if she were to hang up on her end, the call would still continue on theirs, effectively tying up the line and preventing the call-in nature of her show. The power dynamic is obvious, with the callers having control over the show, and thus, her. It's as if they had forced her to a location and prevented her from leaving. Not to mention the entire time they're driving, in the car, one of them waves his pistol around, causing rampant destruction by shooting it off early and often. This attitude is certainly exemplified by the license plate on their car, FAHQ. Both members are wearing upper-class clothing, a jacket on one and a collared shirt with a sweater on the other. From their interactions, this is not the first time they've done this, though it ends up being their last. Also notable is how they frequently refer to her with infantilizing names, most often baby. This is a common theme throughout the film, although the circumstances differ hugely. LG, the other employee at the radio station, calls her darling after she asks for help, but is rebutted, as she insists he not call her that. This contrasts with the names that the teenagers call her, which she ignores. It's an attempt to retain some of the power that she had to give away just by interacting with them, by refusing to show what the names mean to her. The duo do encounter the consequences of their actions, however, as they play chicken with a truck that is later revealed to have Leatherface in the back, as well as the mummified corpse of his brother. While they race down the world's longest bridge, they are assaulted by his chainsaw, and while one loses his head, the fate of the other is unknown. While all of this is happening, the calls to the station still go on, and Stretch makes an extra effort to record the massacre. The next interaction Stretch has is with Dennis Hopper's Lefty, an uncle of characters who were in the previous film. He has been pursuing the Sawyer family for the better part of a decade, and is apparently in desperate search for the chainsaw-wielding madman known as Leatherface. Despite this, when Stretch shows up outside his hotel room and is leered at by passers-by, she is dismissed. She offers to be a witness, and even brings a recording of the audio from the event. Despite all of this, he sends her away without a hint of gratitude. An authority figure hears an account from a woman who directly experienced a crime, and even when presented with evidence, he refuses to hear it. This is despite having his claims dismissed, in almost exactly the same way the day before. This is a common story, not just from police officers who dismiss all manners of accusations, especially domestic violence, but also doctors dismissing symptoms, or professionals ignoring a woman to talk to the man of the house. Lefty changes his tune, however, when he realizes that he can actually use her, and turns up to her radio station. He demands that she play the tape on her show over and over. When she responds that it's illegal, he says again that she needs to do it. While he does admit that he needs her help, he still isn't telling her the whole truth, and just like almost every other character in the film, refers to her with a diminutive name, in this case Missy. She decides to play the tape every hour, but in as a legitimate way as she can, filing it as a request, just like any other music. So far in the film, she has taken her own initiative to preserve the events of the night, sought out the law, and put her own job in jeopardy to help assist with the investigation. Despite all the men she encounters putting her down and demeaning her, she still chooses to take action and to assert her power. This attracts some unwanted attention, however, as after the station goes off air for the night, Chop Top and Leatherface pay the studio a visit. Chop Top is the dictionary definition of a creep. He barges in and demands attention, tells someone he has never met how she is his favorite, and insists upon being shown around by her, ignoring all calls that he needs to leave. Then when she shows him the exit, he reads back the sign in a mocking voice. Finally she says goodnight, but he repeats it back, putting up a blank wall to social norms. These sorts of behaviors are common in the stereotype of the nerd, but will also ring true in real life. In this case, however, Chop Top is a Vietnam veteran, although it's clear that it's not the only reason behind his insanity. He screams about a Nam flashback after he is struck with a chainsaw, using it as an excuse for all the behavior he exhibits. Many men and women use past traumas to excuse themselves from responsibility, or justify reprehensible behavior. The same can be said of Leatherface, although his characterization here is very different. In the first, he plays the role of a confused child, defending his home from would-be invaders like a McAllister. Even while doling out violence, he is not that of a sadist or a murderer, but a butcher preparing a sow. His role expands to that of a beaten mother when the cook arrives, and in a bastardization of the typical home life, he cooks and cleans and helps serve the family. In 2, however, he has grown into an unruly teenager, capable of making decisions for himself, and acting in his own self-interest, rather than exclusively for his family's. When he first meets Stretch, he chases her, but is foiled by a fire extinguisher and slammed door, the same kind of door that he emerged from in the previous film. Now, however, he is not the one with the power. Although he breaks through a wall to pursue her, and swings his chainsaw wildly, spraying white goo everywhere, it makes it clear that he's not there to kill her. She talks him down, asking how good he is, and complimenting him like a lover, telling him that he is the best. In a very thinly veiled metaphor, he strokes her thigh, then crotch with his weapon, as she sweet-talks him. Then he has a fit and explodes around the room. Leatherface here is a rapist, but Stretch is still able to regain control of the situation by pretending that he has the power, that he is the one doing good. It's an incredibly disturbing situation, but Stretch is able to regain some composure and gain any advantage she can. After the crime, Leatherface and Chop Top flee. Stretch, however, is not done with them, and immediately heads out in pursuit, insisting that the horrors that were visited on her not happen to anyone else. Another difference from other films in the genre, where the protagonist is almost always fleeing from danger, rather than heading towards it. She's not the only one chasing after the pair, however, as Lefty follows her. It's revealed that playing the recording on the radio had all been a trap on his end to lure the family out, so he could seek his own personal revenge. Stretch is treated as an object again by him, not just an annoyance but a tool to use while putting her and others in great danger. It is telling that even in the finale of the film, he doesn't assist her in escaping at all, but carries out his own journey, a doomed tale of vengeance. She's able to find the murderous Sawyer's home, however, an abandoned theme park called Texas Battleland. While Lefty takes the more forward approach, charging in the front door and slicing every support beam he can find with a chainsaw, she falls into the depths of it, and is forced to confront the rest of the family firsthand. It's also notable that in his destruction of the place, he stops her from escaping multiple times, so even his attempts to help her are actually hindrances. Initially, Leatherface finds her and treats her as a pet or a mannequin. He puts a freshly made face on her and insists that she keep it on, so she can be just like him. It's clear he thinks of her both as his girlfriend and his property. He is terrified the rest of the family will find out about her, so he hides her away, and lies to them about her existence, the same as he previously lied about killing her. She is freed by LG in one last noble act, the only man in the film who treats her half-decently. She then runs, trying to find her escape from the labyrinthine pit that she's been trapped in. This represents the relationship that Leatherface has built up with her, at least in his head, and the more she struggles and tries to get out, the more complicated and circuitous it becomes. She is eventually caught by the family, and upon being trapped, the first thing she says is, alright, let's talk about this. She continues with a number of relationship cliches. What about me? And this is not going to work out. And finally, this is no one's fault, but I can't do this. It is all the hallmarks of an abusive relationship, both physical and emotional. While she desperately pleads to get out of it, she is confronted by other members of the family, Chop Top and the cook, the patriarch, although all of them are in fact brothers. The cook does everything he can to dehumanize her, before even knowing that she existed. Just hearing noises he referred to as a rat to be rooted out. and upon seeing her in person called her a dirty thing. Then he mocks Leatherface for even being attracted to a woman, although saying that sex is, well, nobody knows. He also calls it a swindle. After he refuses to kill her, she is reduced to just a piece of tail. The hook represents an older attitude towards women, treating them as less than men, and a distraction from a career, which in this case is murder. Later, when she is entrapped and forced to dinner, he treats her as a prop to rant to. In the original film, there was barely any food, but in the land of excess created by the film, there's a whole table of fruits, vegetables, and sauces. Despite this, Stretch is still the main course, just a slab of meat to be slaughtered. Ultimately, however, she breaks free and is able to escape. Not without obstacles, however, as her abusers still try to retain hold of her. The most fervent is Chop Top. He doggedly pursues her, despite both cries for him to leave her alone and physically fighting him off. Throughout his faux friendliness earlier in the film, now he resorts to calling her a bitch and a whore, a common trend in nice guys. However, unlike his earlier refusal to obey the exit sign, she is able to find her own one, allowing escape from hell that she has been stuck in, into daylight. She climbs a tower, and despite his continual efforts, she is able to reach the top. There she finds assistance in the form of Grandma and her chainsaw. Chop Top appears unfazed with everything that has happened, even cutting himself to assert dominance in the situation. When Stretch touches his grandma, however, his behavior shifts entirely, and he becomes terrified and then incensed as he asserts that Stretch killed her, despite her being dead in the previous film a dozen years ago. Many abusive men react completely differently to members of their own family compared to outsiders, and there is clear love and devotion to the ancient matriarch of his clan, compared to the torture and taunting of Stretch. This is also where she is able to reclaim power that has been taken from her. While Leatherface has threatened her with a chainsaw multiple times throughout the film, she's now able to use that weapon to kill the final member of the family, slicing his gut in his head before sending him back down to the underworld she had just escaped from. Then, triumphant, she does a dance with the saw, the same as Leatherface had done at the end of the first film. It serves as an interesting contrast to the end of it, with Sally. She survived the horrors in the film, but was clearly traumatized, and at the end, all the audience can think about is the tagline, who will survive and what will be left of them. All she can do is laugh, as her own journey through hell has come to an end. While Stretch has similar events unfold, she is able to take control of them and claim victory rather than just escape. Ultimately, the film shows many abusive men, all with different relationships to Stretch, but each harmful. Despite this, she still takes action, and is the catalyst rather than just the victim. While the situations are certainly exaggerated, the themes and individual actions are not, and resonate with the experiences of many women. And it serves as a spotlight on the culture, in exactly the same way the original showed a changing American landscape. The film would have an uneven success in terms of box office and critics. It would make $8 million domestically, approximately double its budget, which means it made a profit, but it wasn't enough to right Cannon's sinking ship. Critically, many derided it for the new direction, with Roger Ebert giving it 1 star compared to the 2 he conferred to its predecessor. On Rotten Tomatoes, including more modern reviews, it only holds a 52%. Despite this, it would go on to become a cult classic, with many enjoying the bold changes in black comedy. For Hooper himself, this would be his last film for nearly 4 years, although he did some TV work and writing during the break. Next time we'll take a look at his first screenplay in 16 years with Spontaneous Combustion. I hope you've enjoyed this video. As always, be well.